A major blow to the life of Long Island medium Theresa Caputo. Popular TV personality and medium Theresa Caputo has suffered a major breach of trust. She placed complete trust in her son, Larry Caputo Jr., but Larry Jr. abused that trust by siphoning off all of Theresa's business money into his own name. Theresa's personal and family life has been devastated by this incident. Not only that, but Larry Jr. has now separated from his mother and moved in with his father, Larry Caputo. The complexity of the incident has reached such a point that Theresa is now in crisis about taking legal action. She is unable to even report the incident to the police. Theresa Caputo had built her life around helping others connect with their lost loved ones. Her gift brought peace to countless souls, but nothing could have prepared her for the betrayal that came from within her own family. Her son, Larry Caputo Jr., had always been her pride. She trusted him deeply and gave him full access to her business accounts, hoping he would one day carry forward her legacy. But as her fame grew, so did the cracks in their relationship, cracks she chose to ignore. It started with small financial discrepancies, little things she brushed off as accounting errors. But one morning, Theresa woke up to find her business accounts empty. Every cent gone. And the name on the transfer? Larry Jr. Stunned, she reached out to her son, only to be met with cold silence. A week later, she heard from a family friend that Larry Jr. had moved in with his father, Larry Caputo Sr., the man Theresa had divorced years ago. Theresa was heartbroken. It wasn't just the money, it was the trust, the years of love and support that seemed to vanish overnight. Her team urged her to take legal action, but how could she bring herself to report her own son? The pain of betrayal was greater than any courtroom battle. Haunted by visions and dreams, Theresa began to question everything. Was this a punishment? A warning? A test of faith? She retreated from the spotlight, canceling shows and stepping away from her television career. Alone in her home, Theresa turned to the spirit world, not for others, but for herself, for guidance, for healing, and for strength. And one night, in the quiet glow of candlelight, a voice whispered to her, "Forgiveness does not erase the wrong, but it frees the soul." Theresa wiped her tears, not with answers, but with the first thread of hope. Her heart was broken, but her spirit wasn't. The journey to healing had just begun. However, it was a quiet Sunday morning in Hicksville, and Theresa Caputo sat in her kitchen, sipping her coffee, her signature blonde hair tied up high. The house was unusually still, yet a gentle pressure tugged at her chest, a familiar sign that someone from the other side was trying to connect. The call came around noon. A woman named Laura had reached out for a private reading. Theresa didn't know much, only that Laura had lost her son 2 years ago in a tragic accident. The moment Laura stepped into the room, the air shifted. A chill passed through Theresa as she reached for her notepad. "Your son, he's here," Theresa said softly, closing her eyes. Laura's lips trembled. She clutched a small photo of her son, Ethan, only 17 when he passed. "He's showing me sunflowers," Theresa continued. "Did he used to call you Sunshine?" Laura gasped. "That was his nickname for me. Every morning, even when he was running late for school, he'd say, 'Good morning, Sunshine.'" Theresa smiled, tears in her eyes too. "He says he still does. He watches you sit by the window every morning with your tea. That's his favorite time, when you're quiet and you think of him." The reading continued. Ethan described his favorite hoodie, his secret plan to join a band after graduation, and the way he still listened to his mom sing in the kitchen. "He wants you to know he's okay. He's with your dad. They're watching over you together." Laura sobbed, but her shoulders relaxed. For the first time in years, she felt a strange kind of peace. As Laura left, she turned back and whispered, "Thank you, Theresa. You've given me back a piece of my son." Theresa stood by the door, her hand over her heart. She looked up and smiled. "He gave it to you himself. I just passed the message along." That night, Theresa lit a candle in memory of Ethan. The flame flickered once, as if he was saying goodbye again. However, it was a quiet afternoon in Los Angeles when Kelsey Grammer arrived at a private residence tucked away in the Hollywood Hills. Known for his commanding voice and deeply emotional performances, Kelsey had always maintained a certain skepticism about the supernatural. But today was different. Today, he was meeting Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium. He was hesitant. His past was filled with both triumph and heartbreak. Loss had followed him like a shadow, his father, his sister, and close friends, all taken in tragic ways. He wasn't sure if he believed in mediums, but a part of him needed to know if there was still a connection beyond the veil. Theresa greeted him with her signature big hair, a warm smile, and a hug that felt strangely comforting. "I don't know anything about you," she began, sitting opposite him. "I don't research my clients. I let spirit guide me." Kelsey gave a polite nod, crossing his legs and trying to keep a neutral face. Almost immediately, Theresa's expression changed. She looked to her left, her hand going to her heart. "I'm feeling a very strong female presence, someone who was taken suddenly, unfairly. There's a lot of sorrow, and also a message of strength." Kelsey felt a lump in his throat. His sister Karen had been murdered when she was just 18. "She's showing me a white flower, that's her symbol for innocence, and she's mentioning the play, something theatrical. Did you share something with her related to acting?" He nodded slowly. "She used to help me rehearse lines when we were kids. Before anyone else did." Theresa's voice softened. "She says she never missed a single performance, and she's proud, not just of your career, but of your resilience. She wants you to know none of the pain was in vain." For a moment, Kelsey couldn't speak. Tears welled up in his eyes. He had carried the weight of her loss for decades, but hearing those words, even through a medium, touched something raw and deep. Theresa continued, her eyes fluttering slightly. "There's also a man, strong presence, fatherly. He says he left too soon. He's acknowledging mistakes, regrets, but he's proud of the man you've become." Kelsey looked down, a silent tear rolling down his cheek. His father had been murdered when Kelsey was only 13. They sat in silence for a moment. Theresa reached out and gently held his hand. "You're never truly alone, Kelsey," she said softly. "They walk with you, every step, every stage, every scene." When the session ended, Kelsey walked out into the sunlight with a weight lifted off his chest. He didn't know if he believed everything, but something inside him had shifted. In the echo of Theresa's voice, and in the soft breeze that touched his face, he felt, for the first time in years, a sense of peace. However, it was a cloudy afternoon in Hicksville, and Theresa Caputo had just returned from a whirlwind week of emotional readings across Long Island. Season 6 had brought her some of the most intense encounters yet, but Part 2 promised even more heart-pulling stories, including one that would change her forever. Theresa sat down with Rosa, a quiet schoolteacher who hadn't spoken much since losing her teenage son in a tragic accident 2 years ago. The room fell still as Theresa closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "I'm getting a young male energy," she said softly. "He's showing me a soccer ball, and I feel a strong sense of guilt." Rosa's hands trembled. "That was my son, Matteo. He blamed himself for the crash, but it wasn't his fault." Theresa nodded. "He knows now. He wants you to forgive yourself. He says you keep replaying that day, thinking you could have stopped it." Tears streamed down Rosa's face, every single day. "He says, 'Ma, I'm happy. I made it to the other side, and it's so peaceful. I need you to start living again.'" Just then, a small bell on the table chimed softly, despite no wind or movement. "That's him," Theresa smiled. "He's letting you know he's right here." But it wasn't just Rosa's reading that made headlines. That same week, Theresa had a strange experience of her own. Late one night, she woke up to the smell of her father's cologne, Old Spice, unmistakable. When she opened her eyes, her bedroom light flickered. She felt a cold brush of air across her cheek and heard a whisper. "You're doing good, kid." Theresa sat up, her heart racing. Her father had passed nearly 10 years ago. She'd always felt his presence, but never this clearly. That moment reminded her that even the medium needs a message now and then. As Season 6 wrapped up, fans watched with tears and wonder, not just for the people who found closure, but for Theresa herself, as she reconnected with the spirit that started her journey. However, 14-year-old Ryan Caputo always felt a little different. While other kids in his Long Island neighborhood obsessed over video games and TikTok, Ryan often saw things. Shadows that moved when no one else was around, whispers in quiet rooms, and most of all, the comforting presence of his late grandparents, Angelo and Maria. It started on his 10th birthday. As the cake was placed before him and the family began to sing, he saw them, his Nonna Maria standing by the fridge, her rosary beads swinging gently, and Grandpa Angelo sitting calmly in the armchair, giving him a proud smile. No one else noticed. No one else could see them. Ryan kept it a secret, until one strange day, he discovered he shared a birthday with none other than Theresa Caputo, the Long Island medium herself. It felt like fate. Curious and hopeful, Ryan wrote her a letter, not really expecting a reply. To his shock, a month later, he got a phone call from her assistant. Theresa had read his letter and wanted to meet him. When they met in a cozy cafe in Hicksville, Theresa looked at him with wide eyes. "You feel them all the time, don't you?" she asked. Ryan nodded. "They're proud of you. Your gift is strong," she said, her voice warm and knowing. Under her guidance, Ryan began to understand his gift. He wasn't haunted, he was connected. The spirits of his grandparents weren't stuck, they were watching over him, guiding him. And sometimes, when others needed it, he could pass along messages from beyond. As the years passed, Ryan became known in his town as Little Caputo, a respectful nod to his mentor. But he always said he wasn't special because he could see spirits. He was special because he listened to the quiet moments, to the energy around him, and most of all, to love that never dies. And every birthday, without fail, he'd blow out the candles, look to the corner of the room, and smile at the two familiar faces who never missed a celebration. However, Mark and Lisa had spent years with a quiet ache in their hearts. 2 decades ago, their daughter Emily had vanished without a trace during a family trip to Montauk. Despite tireless searches and endless nights of prayers, no answers came. The grief never truly faded, but life carried on. Birthdays passed, holidays came and went, and Emily remained a memory frozen at age 6. One rainy afternoon, Lisa was scrolling through channels when she stumbled upon Long Island Medium, a show she never thought she'd be interested in. But something compelled her to stop. Theresa Caputo, the medium known for her uncanny connections to the spirit world, was in the middle of a session. Sometimes, spirits bring objects through in a vision. Theresa said suddenly, "I'm seeing a..." She's holding a photograph. She wants her parents to see it. Lisa sat up, heart racing. That weekend, on a whim, Mark booked a private reading with Theresa. They arrived skeptically, unsure what to expect. But within minutes, Theresa said, "I have a little girl here. She's showing me the beach. And she says Montauk. Does that mean something to you?" Mark and Lisa stared at each other, stunned. "She says she's okay. She's been watching over you, but she wants to show you something." Theresa reached into a nearby envelope she claimed had been mysteriously left in her mailbox. Inside was a photograph of a young girl, maybe 6 years old, sitting on a beach, smiling wide, the very same smile Mark and Lisa remembered. The photo wasn't dated, but something about it felt recent. Lisa burst into tears, Mark frozen in disbelief. It was Emily. She hadn't aged a day. The same dress, the same little blue ribbon she wore that day. Theresa placed a gentle hand on Lisa's shoulder. "She says this is her gift to you, proof that love never fades, that she never left your hearts." Whether it was a miracle, A coincidence or something from beyond, Mark and Lisa left that day feeling something they hadn't felt in 20 years: peace. Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. I am Mina. Hope your day is so well. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel.